This dates back a while, and hopefully, if these are one of your favorite teams, it's not too hard of a punch to the gut, but it's all just for fun, entertainment, relaxation, whatever you get out of it. So make sure you guys watch the entire video to see who are some very overrated teams of the NBA. Yesterday, I uploaded a video kind of late. I do apologize for that. Definitely did not mean to do that, but for some reason that video did not want to render very fast, so that was really sad. But I uploaded a video talking about, reading through the NBA title odds for all 30 NBA teams. So, but yeah, other than that, if you liked tonight's video, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Almost at 5K. That's, again, I say this literally in every single one of my videos. Also, I'm uploading every day in December, so make sure you guys check out and come back every day for another video. I'm very grateful for you guys. It's so crazy that we're almost at 5K. That's so insane. I'm almost at my 4-year anniversary on YouTube this coming February, so make sure you guys watch out for that as well. So let's jump into tonight's video. Okay guys, this is, you guessed it, another Bleacher Report article, so do not come for my throat when I say these names. This article is titled Ranking the Most Overrated NBA Teams Since 2000, so it's the past 21 years of the NBA. And also, if you guys can hear that outside, it is raining cats and dogs outside, so I don't know if you guys really like rain ASMR sounds, but there's a lot of background noise going on, so I do apologize maybe if you like it or not. But so yeah, ranking the most overrated teams in the NBA since 2000. This is written by David Kenyon and was posted a couple days ago. Pretty cool to see. So it says here, now overrated is a subjective term. In the past 20 years, you might consider a super hyped roster that lost in the NBA Finals to be overrated, but someone else might not. To bring some uniformity, we relied on a few resources to trim the possibilities, so they come up with a sort of algorithm, some sort of equation that's sort of made up on how to actually calculate if a team was overhyped or not. Opinions, probably win-loss, how they played in the playoffs, if they wanted championship players on the team, things like that. So, counting down. Oh, it's actually a top 8, so it's nearly a top 10. Maybe we can throw on some other names. We'll make this a top 10 video. I don't know why I said top 5 earlier, but I never saw the list. I only know there's a couple of them I could think of, so let's jump into it. At number 8, they have listed here are the 2015-2016 Houston Rockets, which is a very, very random, specific Houston Rockets team. It says here, looking back, we understand the Golden State Warriors were on the verge of starting a 5-year dynasty leading up to a 2015-2016. Leading up to 2015-2016, though, the Houston Rockets had a 56.5 win total and plenty of buzz as a team to dethrone the reigning champions. Houston fired Kevin McHale as head coach following a 4-7 start. Dwight Howard and Patrick Beverley missed some time, but the Houston Rockets lacked a perimeter punch and were bad defensively. Ty Lawson struggled so badly Houston waived him, and James Harden's actual performance looked much worse than his per-game production. The Rockets needed a late surge to finish 41-41 and clipped the Utah Jazz by a single game, for the reward of the unlikely loss to the Golden State Warriors. Wow. Oh man, I don't even think that they're that overrated. I wouldn't even say they were overrated. Let's see here, the 2015 and 2016 Rockets. Let's see who's even on that roster. Yeah, that team was 41-41. They finished 8th in the NBA Western Conference. Did they really have the 8th seed? This might be the wrong team. No, it says 2015-2016. This is the team I'm looking at. 41-41. They talked about that earlier. So this team had Dwight Howard, James Harden, Malik Beasley, Trevor Ariza, Patrick Beverley, Clint Capella, Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell was on the Rockets. I totally forgot about that. I didn't even know that. Dang, that's crazy. I obviously do remember this team, but wow. I don't know even how this team got on this list, if I'm being honest. 2001 season, the Philadelphia 76ers lost to the LA Lakers in the NBA Finals. They added a few complementary pieces for Allen Iverson and entered the next campaign sharing the third highest odds to win the league's title. So, if you didn't know, the year prior that they were just talking about, this team actually went to the NBA Finals. Yes, a team basically just made up of Allen Iverson. I think they had Dikembe Mutombo during this time, if I do remember, and a couple other, good role players, basically, making it all the way to the finals, going against Shaq and Kobe. They got a game on them, but that was it. And it looks like the following year is the year they're talking about, the 2001-2002 series, and they had the third highest odds to win the NBA title that year. That's crazy. It says here the Sixers clawed their way into the playoffs at 43-39, but fell to the Boston Celtics in the first round. Wow, they got bounced out of the first round. That's tough. Iverson scored an NBA best 31.4 points per game. Dang. So they had the leading scorer in the NBA, third highest odds to win the title, and they got bounced out of the first round. That's definitely a good sort of concoction of things to put into this as a very overhyped team. Now, I love Allen Iverson. He's one of the greatest players of all time for sure. One of the best scorers in NBA history. But as a viewer, watcher of the NBA and sort of like always trying to learn more about the NBA, I've always known that Philadelphia 76ers team was a good team for sure, definitely during that time period. But I don't think anyone really had any sort of doubt in their mind that Shaq and Kobe were just always going to be a dominant force in the NBA. Even during that time, people knew it. Obviously, we know it now because of hindsight, and we know who Shaq and Kobe are now. So, I think even back then, people probably knew that, the Sixers really stood a chance. But if that makes them overhyped because, they had the third highest odds of winning the title that year. We just talked about in my last video, this sort of odds of winning the title. They also had the leading scorer in the NBA. They were just in the NBA Finals. Bounced out of the first round. That is pretty tough, but I do love me some Allen Iverson. That team doesn't seem too overhyped in my opinion. That just seems like a very bad luck season. We've seen a lot of sort of things like that throughout the history of the NBA. At number 6, they have here the 2007-2008 Chicago Bulls. That is a very weird and probably bad pick in my opinion. I don't even remember who would be on that team back then because it's obviously not Derrick Rose. Maybe like Kirk Heinrich. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, there's a picture of Kirk here actually. This is a good reminder of when treading up goes wrong. After the second three-peat, Michael Jordan retired and the Bulls understandably cratered. They steadily climbed out of the NBA's cellar and rejoined the playoff fray in 2004-2005 and earned 3 straight postseason trips. Interesting. So they grabbed the attention of top threat of the Eastern Conference with the core of Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, and Ben Wallace. That's interesting. They held a 50.5 win total. That's pretty much meaning what they think they would win an over-under on, and then a plus 1,000 championship odds. Again, just talking about championship odds last video. However, a 9-16 start led Chicago to firing their head coach and trading Gerald Wallace. That's pretty bad. They ended the year with a record of 33-49 and no playoff berth whatsoever. That is very, very, very tough. Despite holding ninth worst lottery odds, the Bulls jumped Miami for the number 1 pick and selected Derrick Rose, so that actually didn't turn out to be that bad of a thing. I don't really understand why a lot of these teams are picked on here. I think I could think of some other teams that were maybe overhyped. I mean, I could see them being an overhyped team because, again, they talked about how they were the up-and-coming team. They were looked at to be the next big threat in the East and then didn't even make the playoffs, which definitely sucks. And I think we did talk about before in a video about Ben Wallace on the Chicago Bulls and it being one of the worst pickups and contracts in NBA history, and just the outplay he did, and it just was really bad for Chicago and for Ben Wallace too. So that's definitely pretty crazy. But it turned out to be Derrick Rose in the end, so maybe it's not that bad of a thing. Next up 2006 Houston Rockets. Wow, the Houston Rockets. I mean, the only thing I can think about with that is that obviously one of the best duos in the NBA probably at that time period was a fully healthy Yao Ming and a fully healthy Tracy McGrady. We all talk about them in like 2K and like those Houston Rockets teams and always wanting the Yao Ming card, and T-Mac is always a killer on 2K, but I guess in real life they didn't really pan out to be the best for each other because obviously injuries really came into play. It basically just talks about in this little reading here that they had a lot of injuries, and it says similar to the 2001-2002 Sixers that we just talked about. Injuries and an inefficient offense doomed the Rockets. McGrady and Yao both missed substantial time, and Houston ended 27th in effective field goal rate. Wow. The Rockets had a record of 34 and 48 that year, tying the Golden State Warriors for the third fewest wins in the Western Conference that year. Dang, that's pretty bad. So the year prior, they had a 51-year win year and had a Game 7 against the Dallas Mavericks, which we all know the Dallas Mavericks during this time period, prime Dirk Nowitzki. That's a pretty tough out, and they took him to Game 7, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. But they had the third highest win mark that year at 53 over under, only behind the Spurs in Miami, which Miami at the time, Shaq and D Wade, the Spurs, in their heyday, that was their prime time with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. So the fact that they were rated up there with those guys and then didn't even make the playoffs that year. Not only that, they were the third worst team in the Western Conference. That's also really bad. I guess these teams do get kind of really overhyped with T-Mac and Yao Ming, not because of their talent. Obviously, if both these guys were healthy, fully healthy, that's a completely different story, because I think this team also had Stevie franchise, didn't they? Unless that was before or after this sort of era of Houston Rockets basketball, I'm not entirely sure, but man, that's crazy. I could definitely see how that could be overhyped. That again is just injury, is it not? I don't know if injuries count when talking about these, but I guess they do. Now we're going to talk about the 2004-2005 Minnesota Timberwolves. It says here, the crushing part of revealing the 2004-2005 Minnesota Timberwolves is understanding it would only get worse. Man, Minnesota have never been better. Led by Kevin Garnett, the 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004 teams all set a franchise record for single season wins. So every year they were improving from 97 to 2004, always improving and getting better. In that final season, the T-Wolves snapped a streak of 7 straight first-round postseason exits and reached the Western Conference Finals. That is crazy. But that following year, they had a start and stumble of 25 and 26 at the start of the NBA season. Wow. As this year, Minnesota fought back to playoff picture and ended 44 and 38, but the Memphis Grizzlies grabbed the final postseason spot by 1 game. The franchise wouldn't have a winning season for 13 years. Dang. I do remember, obviously, when, KG, MVP KG, super good team, and yeah, him and Sam Cassell and those guys that they had, Latrell Sprewell, we all know him, but that's crazy that they would actually put that team on here. Now, if you're talking about prime Kevin Garnett, during that time, he was known as probably the best power forward in the NBA, maybe talent-wise, but we all know now that Tim Duncan is like the GOAT, he's the greatest, but that time period, he was maybe the most talented power forward because he could do it all. Defense, mid-range, offense, post-game, the dude was crazy. So I could definitely see how that sort of turned out to be a sort of a letdown when that team actually made it to the conference finals, and then it looked like, again, didn't even make the next year's playoffs. So, this one is actually kind of sad, but at number 3, we have the 2004-2005 this is the first year after the Shaquille O'Neal trade, and Kobe was basically by himself. It says here, after winning 3 straight titles from 2000 to 2002 and reaching the finals the previous year, the Lakers entered the 2004-2005 season with a new outlook. They traded Shaquille O'Neal to Miami, didn't bring back Phil Jackson as coach, and lost Derek Fisher in free agency. That is so crazy. Here's the juicy part. The Lakers still shared the second highest championship odds with the Sacramento Kings and the Timberwolves, trailing the Spurs. That's so crazy. They had shared the second best championship odds that year, getting rid of Shaq and losing Derek Fisher, losing Phil Jackson. They had the second. That's totally crazy. It says here the Lakers, though, floundered because of an abysmal defense that allowed the league's worst 111 points per 100 possessions. That's pretty bad. And like Minnesota failed to make the playoffs, they finished the record with 34-48. That is pretty bad, to be honest. I know, man, those years when Kobe was like literally just by himself, that was so crazy. But to be honest, and looking back in hindsight again, during that time, yes, that's a very overhyped team. They had the second most odds of winning the NBA title that year, and then didn't make the playoffs. They were still the Lakers. They still had Kobe, one of the best players in the NBA. A lot of people probably thought that they could still do it, but obviously that didn't happen. That's pretty crazy. But that had to happen because that taught Kobe, everything he needed to know to bring back the 2 titles that he brought to LA later on in his career. So, everything happens for a reason. That's definitely a good story to base off that. But if we're talking about an overhyped team, I think looking back now, again, just my personal opinion, I know those teams weren't good. Obviously, Kobe was the only bright side of that entire franchise during that time. But I wouldn't say any of those teams he was on were any good or championship caliber teams. But I guess if you're just during that time period, that team was still very overhyped. Here we are going to number 2, and this is the 2007-2008 Miami Heat. Wow. Wow, that's pretty crazy. It says here the Miami Heat had a plus 1,200 championship odds that year, and were one of the top teams to win the NBA Finals that year, alongside a 46.5 win total plus minus that year as well. But they only won. I didn't even know this. I did not even know this. That year they only won 15 games. In 2007-2008, the Miami Heat won 15 games, 15-67. I did not even know that. Oh wait. It says here it's because of injuries. While injuries plagued their roster, notably Alonzo Mourning's career-ending knee surgery, Miami generally had D. Wade, Udonis Haslem, and other key pieces during the midseason nightmare. And a December to February stretch, the Heat dropped 15 straight. That's really bad. Broke that streak, then lost 11 in a row, so they won 1 game out of 26. That's so bad. I feel really bad about that. That's the year Miami dealt Shaq to Phoenix on the February trade deadline, and Pat Riley resigned as head coach. Man, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. I'm glad I actually read on this because now I know how the sort of Shaq era at Miami ended. Pat Riley stepped down as head coach, and then over the years, Miami has sort of just been that sort of mid-tier team until, LeBron and Chris Bosh came, and voila, the rebirth of the Miami Heat that we see today. So, got 15 wins. I didn't even know that. That's 2 years after they won the championship, the 2005-2006 championship. So, I mean, I can see why. It seems like they have a lot of the same players they did back then. So, that team was probably looked up to be a very high winning team. I mean, they had a pretty high win share, or win plus minus, and also a pretty high chance of winning the championship odds, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, That is the year of Kobe and Dwight, Steve Nash, Pau Gasol, Ron Artest. That disaster of a year for a team. Pretty crazy. It says here, while the big three, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh in Miami opened the 2012-2013 seasons as the favorite, the LA Lakers were right there. Odd makers listed the Lakers at a plus 275 to win the title with a plus minus for wins out of 58.5. So they were almost a projected 60 plus win team that year. And knowing how high that plus is for championship odds, that has to be like maybe the second or third team ranked to win a title that year. So for that to happen, and then for what happened to them, that's pretty crazy. It says here, as the Lakers made a playoff push that year, Kobe Torres left Achilles in the third to last regular season game. The 45-37 Lakers managed to claim a playoff spot, but the Spurs swept LA in the first round. That is pretty bad. Man, I'm trying to think. Do you guys think if that team was healthy, do you think that team would have stood a chance in the playoffs a little bit more? Obviously, with Kobe being, old Kobe during that time. In my opinion, if Kobe was fully healthy and didn't have that, really nasty injury, I think he probably could have gave the Spurs a run for their money. But I remember watching that season and just the way that team played, it just wasn't right. It didn't click right. The way they used Dwight was weird. Steve Nash was literally 40 years old. I don't know why they paid and got Steve Nash on that team. That literally made 0 sense. Everyone on that team was just out of their prime, and then you just tried to plop in Dwight Howard when Dwight was like, oh, I'm the best player, but yet Kobe was still a good play piece, and all the other players were good pieces, but it was just a weird bunch of people, and it just didn't work out, and, it just didn't work out. Let me know down in the comments what teams you think are overhyped. This list was actually kind of whack.